All right, this is the third project for Integrated Media 1. I'm Jay Jansen, and it's the Photoshop project. So my final piece looks like this. It's essentially a promotional piece for a fake movie or book called Those Who Stayed. Um, I kind of came up with the idea by browsing through a library of stock photography I have by a company called Death to Stock Photography. Came across this one. The composition of being just all the focus down here and all this free space to play is what started to make me think about some ideas of what I could do with that space. So I went to Photoshop and I started by adding an adjustment layer that looks like this and painting out the front section to give depth, make it look like there's this dense fog or thick air that's kind of impairing the view as you go further into this environment. And then I added in these planets because I thought maybe the question is, what are these planets? How did they get so close to Earth, and how is this affecting Earth? Um, and are there aliens or whatever? And then I started to add in some fog to kind of basically hide these planets a little bit to give them a little more mystery, but also to add to this effect of this dense air that's essentially something's wrong. And I brought in a tint of orange in the sky as well, and this lens flare to add to the effect, and it just felt appropriate for such a science fiction feeling thing. And then I brought in just this little silhouette of a city in the background that looks like it's mostly engulfed in fog, but is still there. And I just thought that was an interesting juxtaposition between that and this very unurban environment, basically to show that something happened and the landscape of Earth has changed. So then I brought in the type for the title to my fake movie or book or whatever it is, which is Those Who Stayed. I brought in a really thin typeface because it already starts out looking a little bit science fiction-y. Then I added in some of these elements to the main word to make it feel almost like an alien typeface, and I added in these little dots just to lock up the those who and kind of add to the effect that these lines start to give. Yeah, so that's basically. Oh, one more thing. So for every one of these, I use essentially color overlays and other effects from the effects panel down here. That kind of just allows me to play with the colors more than the images start out being. And then also I put on a mask that I can actually paint onto, so I that's how I get these gradients from being completely invisible to visible and make it feel like it's behind fog, is basically by painting over it with the black paintbrush on the sections that should be gone and the white paintbrush on the sections that are completely opaque. So yeah, that's the long and short of how I made it and how I came up with the concept. What I did with this one that was fun was essentially I just got to play with it because I'm used to doing Photoshop illustrations and stuff like that for work. So it was kind of fun to get to take my own idea and just play with it and not really care about if I'm pleasing a client, but have some fun just making something that is for no other purpose besides this project.